Greetings everyone, Sylvain Dancer 98 back at it again with another reaction. So, we're back with the Toku content. So, we're looking at Chojin Sentai Jetman, gasping for air, explode when defeated. So, let's check out what exactly they're doing gasping for air there. If you need to be worried about spoilers, here's your warning. Well, duh, yeah, it's going to be talking about the series. There's going to be spoilers. Yep, no smoking.
Super Sentai has been in some trouble in recent years. Toy sales haven't really been delivering the numbers that Toei and Bandai have been hoping for, to the point where they've been trying out some pretty crazy ideas as of late. Q-Ranger tried out the idea of blowing up the cast, going for 9 team members to start with, ending with 12. This was a pretty inspired idea in my opinion, but that didn't really matter, as the toy sales didn't back it up. They followed that up with Lupin Ranger vs. Pat Ranger, the first Super Sentai season to be built around 2 teams at the same time, and their clashing of ideals. Also a good idea, but again, that didn't really matter, as the toy sales didn't back that up either. So here we are with Ryu Soldier this year. There's talk about this possibly being it for Sentai if the numbers don't go up, and the legitimacy of that talk can be debated, but at the end of the day, Super Sentai hasn't been doing as well as it should, and there's a lot of pressure on this year's show in particular to really boost the momentum of the show so it can keep going. I'd personally be devastated to see it go, so I'm hoping this Hail Mary from Toei and Bandai works. This isn't the first time we've seen something like this happen, though. After Super Sentai Go Ranger just up...
And that's where we bring in Jetman, because, well, it was a good show. The sales, weren't exactly good a reflection back then.
And kickstarted a giant meta-series of super-powered teams fighting evil in glorious Technicolor. We were in for a couple decades of variations on the same format. It's pretty simple. Every series is comprised of a handful of passionate people dedicated to fighting evil, and they get super cool costumes, and they fuck shit up, and a mech happens. Unlike Kamen Rider and Ultraman, there's not so much a unifying theme or mythos, but a tried-and-true formula that you can fit to any number of stories. Super Sentai is the only one of the big tokusatsu properties to have never had an extended break period throughout its entire run. You always know what you're getting with Sentai, and that's one of its strengths. This is also Sentai's greatest flaw. By the time 1990s series Chikyu Sentai 5-Man was over, Super Sentai was in a pretty dire situation. Toy sales were declining, and the franchise was getting stagnant. People just weren't excited or surprised by Super Sentai anymore. So let's talk about what happened in 1991, Tairan Gatchaman, a famous anime by Tatsunoko about a squadron of burn-themed heroes. During production, the series was under the working title of Superman Sentai Birdman, and was being shopped around to actors as a live-action Gatchaman. This show was meant to be more dramatic than most Sentai. It would have more tension within the team dynamic, and, well, this sounds kind of funny to say now, it was an important distinction at the time. The heroes would actually refer to each other by name, and not team designation like was customary in shows previous. With this new direction and a name change in tow, Chojin Sentai Jetman premiered on February 15th, 1991, and Super Sentai was never really the same. To say that Jetman had an effect on Super Sentai would be selling it just a bit short. This show pretty much marks the transition from old-school Sentai to modern Sentai in a lot of really big ways. One way that it kind of stands on that border between two eras is in its design. Just look at this show. All the design really screams retro Sentai. All the white on the suits makes it feel a lot older than the shows that immediately succeeded. I really like heavy usage of white on Sentai suit design. I mean, Live Man is one of my favorite suit designs ever, but there's no escaping just how much older these suits feel when compared to shows even 5 years later. Particularly those chest and collar pieces with the bird. Those are cool, but definitely have like a retro feel that kind of gets left in the wayside as Sentai progresses forward in the 90s. God, I love those helmets, though. They're so good, and I love that each one has different eyes for each bird. It's great. This was also at a time where the toy line and the theming of the show weren't really entirely in sync yet. Looking at the sidearms and stuff, nothing about this really screams birds at you. The sword has some cool flip-out wings for the hilt, but that's kind of about it. And, like, what do the gauntlet and the dune buggy cannon have to do with birds, as cool as they are? I mean, not a lot. I mean, unless I'm an idiot, and there are actually birds out there known for their immense punching strength and affinity for driving cool dune buggies.
Yes, we call them the Punch Falcon and the Cannon Eagle.
These sound like nitpicks, but I think it's really important to the design of these shows that there's more cohesion. The mechs really stand out in this way as well. Aside from the red one, all of the Jetman's, well, jets, all just look like jets. The Hawk actually looks like a Hawk, though, so points for that, but put them all together and the design really shows its age. Jet Icarus is probably the best example I had for my point. This is the last of the retro big pile of boxes mecha. This was how mech design worked in Sentai for years and years, and Jet Icarus is kind of the last of that wave. It's a really beautiful mech, but it's very old school, and it was one that was going to have to move over for the new wave coming right after.
Yeah.
The real stand...
Yeah, that was my main thing with the older ones. Like, it's like, You have all these big, bulky suits these poor actors have to put on. A lot of them look like you could make them with cardboard.
Out of the toy line really is motherfucking Jet Garuda. It's a big ass bird dude with a big ass bird head that does big ass kicks on big ass monsters. I love this thing. It's so tight. Big bird Jet, big bird man. I mean, seriously, the head on this thing alone makes Jet Garuda one of the most unique mechs in this era of Sentai. Just because, well, you never see that. The super robot combo when Jet Icarus and Jet Garuda come together is just another big pile of boxes, though. Looks good. Big pile of boxes, though. But that's not really what we're here to talk about, is it? The toy line was good for the time, but a little standard, honestly. The thing that really makes this show stand out is the actual show itself, and most importantly, the team dynamic. The show lives and dies by trying to convince you that this team works, and it's compelling because the team kind of fucking doesn't. Jetman begins in tragedy. The Earth ship, a sort of military-based satellite, is destroyed when invaders from the back dimension, the Vyram, come in and just fuck everything and everybody up. Our red hero is Ryu, someone that was training on the Earth ship for the Jetman program, and he, alongside with the Jetman's commander, Odagiri, are the only survivors from this attack, with Ryu losing his girlfriend Rie in the midst of the wreckage.
Jeez.
Ryu gets his powers as a Jetman from the Birdonic Waves, which is up there with fucking unobtainium from Avatar as some of the most on-the-nose fake science jargon I've ever heard. And when the base is destroyed, the other 4 Birdonic Waves are scattered across the city below. The recipients being Kaori, an heiress to an ultra-rich family, Raita, a farmer, Akko, a fun-loving high school girl, and Guy,
Jeez.
a dickhead. These 4 are fairly reluctant to join, but eventually come together in an emergency to deal with a back dimension invader. This is usually where a lot of shows would stop with the tension of the team dynamic. Usually once they're together, they're together. Not here. While Guy is the only one to consistently leave and rejoin every week, because he's a dick, and just wants to play sax at his local bar, the team just kind of has to grapple with general inexperience and clashing of personalities all the time. Ryu is the only one actually trained for any of this, and over the course of the show you have to see the team try to come together. On the other side of this is the Vyram. They create dimension beasts to fight the Jetman made out of inanimate objects, then later biodimensional beasts which are objects fused with animals. Villains are pretty important to a good story, and these guys are a real slam dunk. You've got Gray, a suave, cigar-smoking, gun-toting robot. Tran, a shit kid with a power glove. Radiguet, an absolute fucking bastard. And Maria, who was actually a brainwashed Rie from the show's introductory scenes. These guys clash with each other all the time because they're just such motherfuckers, and it's the most consistently entertaining thing about the show. They're a group that don't really do teamwork. They're more in competition with each other to see whose methods will actually work the best in eliminating the Jetman. A lot of the truly good Sentai have a villain dynamic that's even half as scrappy and hateful as this, and it's no wonder why. Jetman may not have been the first, but it definitely feels very influential in this respect. My favorite early-ish plotline with the Vyram is the point where their queen is revived. She comes back in episode 17, which is much earlier than in your regular Sentai series, and she starts slapping shit. She just whoops so much ass, it's kind of absurd. And our Vyram's reaction to this? Jealousy. Not joy, not relief, no. Radiguet is quite literally like, oh, we gotta kill this bitch. The Jetman are my prey. And immediately goes for her. It's amazing. She tears him up and turns him into a human, and he has a touching little diversion of a plot with the sick girl, but as soon as he catches sight of the Empress again, well, it really was on sight.
Dang.
Yeah, that's right. He threw a sword at her head and killed her, and took her baby monster and raised it as his own badass monster. God, I love Radiguet. He's such a riot. A lot of the Jetman's first triumphs are really engaging. The first few episodes are one of the better introduction arcs I've seen a Sentai pull off. There's real peril and stakes. It's scrappy and it does a great job of setting the mood for the rest of the series. The introduction of Jet Icarus is another early highlight. The House Vyram is a really cool idea for a monster, and the fight with Radiguet inside of it rules. And topping it off with that first mech fight, mwah, hell yeah. There's one plot thread that I feel really drags this show down in the first half. After some amount of time, Kaori begins to develop feelings for Ryu, and out of some sort of jealousy, Guy starts to pursue Kaori romantically. And oh well, would you look at that, it's a love triangle, or a love line? Ryu doesn't really have a dog in this, he's just kind of trying to do his job, so we get some kind of weird stuff like Kaori trying to tell Ryu to forget about his presumed-to-be-dead girlfriend and to go to an Iggy Pop concert with her. Seriously, Iggy Pop, it's great. And Guy being just horrible. Guy, I'm begging you to stop handling women like that. In a way, I'm begging you to not write shit like this. This stuff really started to bug me throughout my viewing of the show, but thankfully it doesn't last throughout the entire run. As we move into the second half, there's a great 3-part episode involving the Majin, 3 demons unrelated to the Vyram that rise and start causing trouble. In this 3-parter, 3 important things happen. The love triangle is resolved, with Kaori falling for Guy, which isn't my preferred way to resolve things, but it does at least mercifully put the whole push-pull to rest. And when it's all said and done, their relationship is pretty cute. To be clear, I didn't quite hate the idea of them being together, didn't really love it either, but just how the tension was written, it really bothered me.
So basically, it's like you love to hate it, but yet you don't hate loving it. So it's one of those weird things. They're like, yeah, I'm tired of how they went about it, but at least they got together, and so at least they work well.
Another important thing is that Maria and Rie are finally revealed to be one and the same, and this kind of breaks Ryu, leading into the final important thing being that this is the point where the team finally comes together. Ryu was helped by the rest of his team to come to terms with what's happened to Rie, and the 5 resolve to make this team work so that everybody can finally know peace once this war is over. While nowhere near as harsh as the last series I talked about, Kuga, Jetman also deals with the idea of hope in hopeless situations. It's a lot lighter because you've still got episodes with giant ramen monsters, but when it really gets down to it, this is one of the show's strongest points because of how it mirrors Super Sentai's own desperation. It's like the show was drowning and gasping for air. This is a really great arc for a Sentai designed to save Sentai, but we're only about 2/3 of the way through the show. Even if the show at this point feels pretty thematically whole, it keeps going, and it enters some pretty interesting territory. The next big plot point is that, well, there's no real easy way to transition into this. Tran gets owned so hard by his Vyram buddies for being such a weak little kid that he runs into the woods and screams so hard that he grows like 20 years and becomes Emperor Tranza, a complete bastard that out-bastards all the other Vyram. And, oh god above me, he kicks so much ass, he just doesn't stop. Tranza just becomes Boss Hog for a while due to his immense power. In his plan, a big robot named Veronica. Veronica does some damn work in an excellent 2-part episode, but in the end, Veronica fails on account of Radiguet absorbing Veronica's energy and turning it into 100% pure bastard energy just to spite Tranza. And this leaves both bastards desperate. Radiguet grappling with absorbing all that power, and Tranza desperate after having lost again. This ends in Tranza's final gambit. A big gun. This is a funny-ass idea, but episode 47 ends in a really, really messed up way, though. With Tranza finally losing for real to Ryu with the secret help from Radiguet, and Radiguet following Tranza to a beach where Radiguet digs at his hand and makes him say his name. This defeat, combined with Radiguet's torture, leaves Tranza mentally broken and in a mental hospital. The arc beginning and ending with people treating him like a child. There's obviously some dated ableist stuff that this kind of does you could kind of point out, but we'll just kind of move on from it and just say that it's super harsh, but it works thematically.
Oof.
Kind of an omen of things to come. So the mantle of Boss Hog moves back to Radiguet and the final arc of Jetman begins. Jetman's closing arc is honestly really strange. Not strange enough to be fully off-putting, it kinda just deals broadly in Sentai final arc conventions.
What?
But the places these characters get to in these final episodes really sticks out in a way that makes me super
Dang!
I think the first 31 or so episodes of Jetman, while troubled when it comes to that love triangle, work incredibly well as a story of a team scrapping together something that works and forcing the team dynamic to work. The Tranza stuff reinforces this, but really mainly serves to develop Radiguet, but when it comes to the final few episodes, it gets complicated. In the second half of the show, it's almost as if Ryu and the others switch places. The show starting with Ryu as the glue holding everything together, and everyone else being super scattered and unsure. Guy in particular. The show's final arc basically works with everyone else trying to hold Ryu together while he reaches his breaking point again when it comes to Rie. The incident that kicks everything into motion here is Maria having a real desire for power, Radiguet encouraging that, and Maria clashing with Ryu. Ryu does his best to get Maria to remember who she was, and he actually succeeds. Rie snaps out of it and reverts from the Maria persona, but in a cruel twist of fate, she doesn't take Ryu's hand because of her immense regret for what she's done throughout the show. Radiguet intervenes, and Rie takes her chance to strike a serious blow to Radiguet's back, and Radiguet retaliates by killing her. This is so cruel, and in a way that, like with the Tranza ending, kind of sticks in my craw. So let's talk about it for a second. Keeping in mind that this is 1991, the things that this show has to say about women aren't really all that surprising, unfortunately. It's a criticism worth having, though, that women in this show mostly just end up being objects for affection and caregivers for men, and are otherwise thrown away and killed for male development. A pretty sexist take, if you ask me. Before I get too carried away about general sexism in tokusatsu, that's a huge topic for a whole other video, I just want to mention here that defenses about how the show is from 1991 can only get Jetman so far before it just stops being about how the show is old-fashioned and more about how the writing has genuine flaws. And I think we owe it to ourselves to be able to point that out and criticize our favorite shows for it. I really quite like Jetman, but the love triangle sucks on the whole, and the death of Rie is cruel in a way that really bothered me. I'm not going to sit here and try to rewrite the show to handle this better, I just think it very much could have been handled better. In all honesty, that probably goes for the Vyram Empress as well, as funny and ridiculous as I found the resolution to that plotline. I just think I can partly forgive it for how it frames Radiguet and how the Empress wasn't dangled in the face of our protagonist like a reward, like Rie was. The Vyram Empress was at least a genuine story beat in the tale of Radiguet and his bastard adventures. Rie's death was a cheap jab to make the heroes suffer more. The transit thing also bothers me, especially as someone that is mentally ill, but that's mainly just one moment out of the show, and while unfortunate, I'm willing to chalk that one up to it being 1991 and the show just being too crass for its own good about that subject. Rie's death fully and completely breaks Ryu, as avenging and then saving Rie was his motivation throughout the entire series. Thinking about it now, I really can't think of many Red heroes that have it worse than Ryu. The final two episodes are fairly straightforward for the most part. Ryu battles Radiguet, and Guy battles Gray in respective battles to the death. Only Guy's fight actually goes all the way, though, complete with the tokusatsu equivalent of a shiny Pokemon, the broken helmet scene. These don't happen all that often, but trust me, people go absolutely apeshit when this stuff happens, me included. It just looks so fucking cool. Ryu utterly fails, though, as his judgment is too clouded by his grief. He started his march to Radiguet with a letter of resignation from the Jetman, and proceeded with a suicide plan to remote control the cannon to destroy both himself and Radiguet, a la the Raditz battle in Dragon Ball. Ryu is saved by the others, and Kaori and Ryu escape so Kaori can talk some sense into Ryu, while Raita and Akko hold off Radiguet. The scene in the shed here helps to recenter the show a bit in telling Ryu that his quest for revenge isn't the way, and that he needs to accept what's happened so he can help everyone else survive and win against the Vyram. And without this scene, I would have felt that the ending arc largely undermined the spirit of the show up to this point, so I really am thankful for the scene for bringing it back down a notch. Episode 50 ends with the team finally standing together again against Radiguet and pretty swiftly defeating him. Radiguet, however, bastard that he is, had one final trick up his sleeve, and that was a big ol' ass mech fight that's basically what the first half of the final episode ends up being. The one thing of note here is that the blow that Rie delivered onto Radiguet a couple episodes back is actually the thing that gives the Jetman a leg up on him and allows him to finally deal the mortal blow on his ass. The second half of the final episode is where things get complicated again. 3 years pass, and we meet the team at a wedding. The happy bride and groom are Kaori and Ryu. Raita and Akko are wondering where Guy's at. We see Guy buying flowers and telling a passerby that today's gonna be a wonderful day, because this is the day he finally gets to see his best friend get married. And I'm gonna admit, that made me tear up a bit. Guy witnesses a purse snatching and chases after the culprit. The thief then pulls a knife and stabs Guy. Guy ends up walking all the way to the wedding and sits down on a bench. He talks a bit with Ryu, and while the rest are taking pictures, Guy stays on the bench and lights one last cigarette before he finally slumps over dead. Ryu takes notice and sees a vision of Rie nodding at him before the camera moves up to the blue sky and Jetman ends. This ending really tripped me up, and I think it tripped a lot of people up. Everything else is alright, and the initial twist of Kaori ending up with Ryu was definitely unexpected, but it's nothing huge. It's honestly more of an oddly mature, oh, these people grew over some time and different relationships were forged type of thing. Kind of unexpected, but appreciated out of the show. The part that really throws everything is Guy's death, obviously. It happens for absolutely no reason, and it doesn't really serve a thematic purpose that I can really think of, but I don't hate it. I don't know that I really care for it either, but it's just such an odd and gutsy move that I kind of have to appreciate it, and I grew to like Guy over the course of the show enough to actually tear up during all of this in the conclusion. It's almost like the show, being one just full of gut punches and bad luck for the heroes, decided to throw one last punch at the audience as it was leaving. It's kind of empty of meaning on its own, but it kind of works as an almost cheeky jab from the creators. Like the show gained its confidence back. Super Sentai's back on top, and in this final move is taunting you. Like, you really do care about these characters. You didn't get tired of Sentai at all, did you? That's pretty interesting.
Also, you gotta think, because Guy was being, well, a jerk throughout most of the show until he finally learned to be better with the guys and the others. And suddenly he does a good act and literally loses his life for it. Like, literally, like, the thing that defined him changing is also the thing that defined his death. So it's like, talk about a gut punch it feels.
Jetman was a big deal. The show really brought a lot of guts to the table when it came to Sentai writing, and it was big enough to reinvigorate interest in the show, with Zeo Ranger picking up right where Jetman left off, and truly kicking off a new wave of Super Sentai shows that continue on to this day. There are a couple more points where Super Sentai's been in trouble, like for instance, right now. Ryu Soldier just started here recently and finds itself in a pretty similar place to Jetman when it first started. Hot off the heels of a lot of brand disappointments and with some new and fresh creative talent in tow, Soldier really has its work cut out for itself, but if the dramatic and gutsy first episode is any indication, there's probably a chance of lightning striking twice here. And yeah, so that was my second episode of Explode When Defeated. I think I picked a pretty good one for this one as well. People like this show quite a bit. I had a couple more criticisms than I think I see usually online, but whatever. I quite do like the show, and I think I was proud of the script I came up with. It really reminded me of a lot of the stuff that's happening right now with Sentai. So I thought it would be a pretty good episode to kind of follow up the.
Well, there we go. Yeah, I mean, I liked it. It's pretty solid. If only I didn't keep having those random notifications that kept popping up. Anyway, still, hope you guys enjoyed that. I certainly did. And yeah, man, talk about pressure. No good toy sales going on. People were enjoying some of the toys from the show, but it wasn't really the show's sales that were helping. It was the popularity they eventually gained from people going, no, as the characters are dealing with all this hardship, both evil and good. But hopefully you guys are liking this. I certainly enjoyed it. Looking forward to seeing more from Explode When Defeated, and hopefully you guys are looking forward to seeing more alongside me. In the meantime, please look forward to the next anime nerdcore song, as it were, as we go to something called the Saiyan Cipher. Should be fun. You guys take care. I'll see you in the next video.